All right, good evening. This is the Neighborhood Advisory Committee meeting, March 27th, 2023, from 6 to 7 p.m. And we're on the first in person at the first floor North Conference Room, City Hall. You can stream live on the city YouTube website, or you can make public comments via voicemail, 855-925-2801, meeting code 9247, or you can email the Neighborhood Advisory Committee at publicinput.com. At this time, I'm going to call the meeting to order. We will have an introduction of our members, staff, and visitors. We'll start with Jake.
Jake Smith, at large, 28801.
Wendy Hayner, 28804.
Elizabeth Likas, at large, 28803.
Elise Marder, at-large member residing in 28806.
Sharon Summerall, 28805, Vice Chair.
Peter Abzug, at large, 28805.
Michael Fulbright, 28801.
Dawa Hitch, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Communication and Public Engagement Director for the City of Asheville and the Staff Liaison to the Neighborhood Advisory Committee.
Meredith Friedheim, Neighborhood Services Specialist.
And Christina Israel, Community Engagement Manager, and I'm your Administrative Liaison.
And I am Barbette Mays, and I am the chair. And my zip code is 2803 and 28704. We do have a visitor here, but we will announce you as we come to you, okay? Has everyone had a chance to look over the draft minutes from February the 23rd, 2023? Are there any questions? Can I get a motion?
I move we approve the minutes.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's been carried. The draft minutes from February 27th have been approved. If you'll take a few minutes and review the agenda for today's meeting, if there's anything that you want to add, that you have on, that your committee's going to do, just make sure you're prepared as we come down to that point. Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
All right, we'll go with the staff activities and updates from Dawa Hitch.
I'll actually be turning this one over to our staff members here within our Community Engagement Division to give us an update on the progress of our Neighborhood Matching Grant Program.
All right, well, I will be happy to provide that update. A little closer here. So we launched round 3 of funding today. And neighborhood matching grants, we haven't changed anything in the way of the awarded amounts. Neighborhoods can still apply for up to $5,000 of funding that they will match in any combination of volunteer hours, cash donations, in-kind donations, that sort of thing. All neighborhoods are welcome to apply. Some neighborhoods are not at the point where they have things like a bank account or a treasurer, and we have had situations like that where they've been able to partner with a fiscal agent that's like a local nonprofit that they routinely work with to act as that pass-through entity for the funding. So we want people to know not to let that sort of thing be a barrier for them. You all have been hearing about neighborhood matching grants for a while now, but I know that we also have new members on the committee, so just want to give you a sense as you're out in the community, if you could be a resource and be talking to folks about the availability of what sort of projects can be funded. We have all of the program, all of the program policies and guidelines on our website. You could just go to ashevillennc.gov and in the search bar type neighborhoods or neighborhood matching grants or some combination thereof, it'll get you there. Basically, it's important to us that we let the imagination of the neighborhoods really dictate what their project is going to be. So we try to sort of cast a wide net and allow for them to dream up whatever sounds like that's what they need. But basically, it needs to provide a public benefit And it needs, if it's a built project, it should not occur on someone's private property. Other than that, they need to demonstrate what level of participation and buy-in they're getting from their neighbors. So if like one person has a great idea, but they haven't gone to the neighborhood and said, what do you guys think about this? Should we pursue this funding? We're going to ask for that demonstration of support from their neighbors. There is an application window. We extended that from 1 month to 2 months this time because what we found was that people have their ideas, they submit their application, and then we as city staff, we look at the complexity of their projects. Some of them are very straightforward and some of them are not. We need time to go back and forth with people and really iron things out and make sure that it's going to be doable before we get into the actual awards process and say yes to the funding. We're going to award 12 this round. Are there any questions? I know I haven't covered everything, Peter.
Yeah, when does the application process open?
So it opened today, thank you.
Today?
Yep. And it's going to close on May the 27th.
And where on the website? This is okay.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big website.
It is, yeah. And so, therefore, for me to read out the URL to you is going to be, it's going to be a little long. I mean, I'll give it to you, but honestly, if you just go to the homepage and type neighborhood matching grants into that search bar that's at the top middle, that'll be the easiest way to find it, Peter. Yep.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Any other questions? Elise?
Do the groups that apply, do they have to be registered neighborhoods?
Thank you, yes. That is one of the very first steps, is to register the neighborhood. And that's a longer conversation that you and I could have, because I know that if you probably still live in an area where you're not in a registered neighborhood.
No.
Yeah.
Across the street is, not me.
Yeah. We're seeing opportunities for places where there may be gaps. We've had a couple of neighborhoods approach us recently about annexing streets that were not previously included. So yeah.
We do seem to find that neighborhood registration is probably the biggest obstacle when it comes to accessing these types of resources. And it certainly takes a lot of work just to get over that hurdle. So good to know, so we don't send people on fruitless efforts to try to get these grants.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you a question. But since if you're not a registered neighborhood, can't you partner with the other ones? Can you do a partnership? Because I know that's been happening. So if you're not registered, then you can partner with the other neighborhood or what's inside of your area, can't you?
Yeah,
Because I think that's what we've been doing in Shiloh with a group.
Yeah. Yes, that's a really good point, Bobette. And that's exactly the sort of collaboration that we love to see that kind of happens when people are talking about putting on a project together. So yeah, that would be a creative opportunity to get past that barrier.
So you ready for your last question, Elise?
Yes. I have one final question about the neighborhood matching grants. Can a neighborhood or organization that won previously, say just this last cycle, maybe they're still completing the project that they got for last cycle, are they allowed to apply again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
That's totally fine.
Even if they're currently in assuming they're in good standing where their project currently is in the last cycle?
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask you, how much have you been involved in the neighborhood matching grants? Because I'll tell you, the process is really one that, from what we've done, is, it's very, they ask a lot of questions. They want to know what you're doing and how you're doing with your, so that we would not, I don't say that you would not be eligible, but if you didn't do anything with the money you had before, that'd be another question. But if you're moving forward doing something with what you already have, and that's going to just come and help with that, there are ways that they do that.
Thank you.
Am I right?
Yeah, so part of the reporting process, and I'll go ahead and speak to the receiving the funds since we're sort of on the topic. We were able to make a good change to the sort of requirements. We know that not every neighborhood has a bank account full of money that they can upfront deal with the costs. So we can pay in advance and then have the neighborhood submit receipts within a timely fashion, or we can pay as a reimbursement, just whatever. We just want to work with people, you know, and make it as easy as we can. So yes, there is that expense reporting piece. And then once the project is initiated and everything's up and going, we just send a simple Google form as a status report so that we can collect information on how it's going and hopefully some stories and some pictures and things like that. And then there's like a closeout sort of, you know, tell us how it all went, make sure that we've got all of the volunteer hours tracked and things like that. We try to be very accommodating because we know that people are volunteering their time to do these projects, and everybody's at different levels of capacity, and that's fine. You know, we figure out a way to make it work.
I have a question pertaining to the neighborhood grants. Is the dollar amount still equal to what it was the last time, 25, is it?
5,000 is.
No, the person who's going to contribute their time and effort, they get.
Oh, the volunteer, yes. The National Volunteer Hourly Rate tends to go up every year.
Yes.
And we just take that number from independentsector.org. They're sort of like the standard. And so last year, I think it was $29.15 per hour, and it did go up, or it will, sorry, not did. It should go up again. I think they usually issue it in April. So yeah, great question.
Okay, let's go to unfinished business, the updates from the bylaws review working group.
Okay, that is myself to clear up some misinformation I gave in. Elise, who did a lot of the cleanup work from Peter, myself, and Elise, who were on the bylaws subcommittee. We got an email saying that it had to be reviewed by legal, which I think is pretty standard on the bylaws, and I wanted to clarify that most of you don't know the bylaws, and they're online and they're available. And we've got a section that says officers, Article 3, and we've made a change, and officers, it said the officers of the NAC shall consist of a chairperson, vice chairperson. These officers shall be elected by the committee at the annual meeting, period. And then the new addition is term length is 12 months. So I stated erroneously that we probably couldn't use that, but we can use that because as talking with Elise and looking at other boards and commissions, like Urban Forestry Commission elects officers at 12-month increments, and they do it in January. We elect officers if they're due for re-election in our annual meeting, which is, here we go, Section 2 Annual Planning Retreat Meeting. The annual planning retreat meeting of the NAC shall be the regular meeting of the NAC that occurs in August, suggested June, or the first meeting thereafter. At the annual planning retreat meeting, in addition to regular business of the NAC, including setting the monthly meeting schedule and the final work plan, and then it says officers shall be elected, which means that it is annual. And we're also stating that we can re-elect our officers if we choose to do so, or we can nominate and elect different people if we also choose to do so. So I think in order for us to have these bylaws go into and be looked at legal, that we as a group need to vote on whether we want to make these changes or not. Now, I don't think we can do that at this meeting because none of us have seen it. And so I'm suggesting that what we do is have Elise send it out.
Well, I shared it with Christina already.
But we haven't notified everybody.
Yeah, it needs to be
read
sent to everybody
and-
else.
And so I think that if everybody, if Christina sends a link, that we all look at it, so that the next meeting, we can have, if we have any questions, ask the questions, and if we're gonna make additions, that we vote these additions are okay, so that when they do go to legal, that we've all agreed that this is something that we all want. And I was talking to Bobette and to Elise about, it makes sense to me to have it at the beginning of the year, because I'm just one of those people who thinks, okay, it's the beginning of the year, we elect officers. But as Elise stated, it's already stated in here to be done at our annual planning retreat meeting, and so therefore, we should just keep it at that and just remind everybody that officers shall be elected at that period and point in time. And that makes not having to change the whole bylaws. And I think Elise is correct with that. Let's just keep it at that, and we'll just remind ourselves that that's what needs to be done when we're ready to vote on officers. So I'm suggesting that with the link, that everybody read it, it gets on the agenda for next, that we look it over and agree or not agree, and have discussion on it so that legal can look at it. Does everybody agree with that? I don't think we need to make a vote on that or a motion.
No, but if you have a question about, my thing is, are you saying that we will look over it next month and then vote on it next month?
Yeah, well, we'll look over it when we get our, yes.
The bylaws currently state that any amendments, and we don't plan on changing this section, or we don't have any proposals to change that section. The bylaws state that any amendments to the bylaws have to be reviewed by the rest of the committee members at least 7 days prior to actually voting on them. So yeah, everyone would need at least 7 days prior to our next meeting before we vote on any change in language.
So I thought that when we discussed it, we were just gonna, the next meeting, that we were just going to look and review it, and then it would go to the attorney, so they could, whoever it is gonna review it to make sure that but we're not gonna vote on it next month. That was what I thought that we agreed in our pre-meeting.
Well, that's what I'm trying to clear up, that we have to vote on it as a committee to the changes, as not just the subcommittee, our
That's what I'm saying,
working
but
group. We all have to read it and discuss it 7 days before, and then it can go to legal, and if legal agrees with it, then it's a.
So I'm saying, what I'm saying is, I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying that if we come back next month and you all review it, we all review it, and they said it goes to legal, then I would say that in May would be the time that we would vote on it. And I say that because, I mean, everybody has busy lives, but you're gonna send it out as an email, but I think that people need to be able to sit down and look at it, and you can kind of like, especially for the new people that may not even know what the bylaws say. Because you would know what it says unless you were on the committee.
But if you've got a chance to read it.
I've prepared a document that shows the current text along with the proposed text, along with the reason for change.
It's real
Hopefully it
simple.
should be easy enough for people to look at the document that we currently have with the, I have an attachment as well as the current bylaws as well.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying that next month, when you meet, then everyone will have a chance to review it. And then it goes to legal, and legal looks at it, and then we come back in May and say, that's what we want to do. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand.
That's what I'm saying.
But what I'm thinking is, if legal comes back and says, we don't like the language on this.
So that means you have till May.
And then we'll all have voted on it, and then we'll just pretty much agree with what legal says. I can't see.
Well, I
us
don't want to
not-
vote on something and we still have to go to legal, and legal says that they didn't like something that we said, and we might need to change how we say something. So I wouldn't want to sit here and vote on something before legal has a chance to look at it. Does that make sense? I'd rather for legal to look at it and to say, well, this is what I see that it's okay, and then we come back and then we vote on it.
Would it be possible to send the document that Elise is referring to legal before the next meeting, and then if they okay it, then email it to all of us so that we can be ready to discuss and vote in April?
I was under the impression that had already been done, actually.
No.
But it
No.
didn't.
So, no.
I'm trying to look back at my
No, I
emails.
was under the impression we all had to vote on it before the language changed, before it even got to legal. That we as a group had to vote on it before it would even get to legal, because we all have to know what it says.
But I would, not to vote on it, but just to review it. That's what I was saying. Review it, look at it, review it, take it to legal. When legal says, okay, that it's okay, everything looks fine, then we come back and then we take a vote on it, and it's done.
Well, I guess it really depends on what the terminology is on the verbiage of if we all have to agree to it before it gets to legal. I'd have to sit down and reread that again. Do you have that?
There's nothing that specifies that. I think
There's
it's just up to us to make a decision. There's nothing that says anything specific about legal.
Is there a precedent or a preference from legal about how that works that we can find out from
I don't think
staff
so.
to
I
say,
think
this is how we want you to do it?
No, I think
Or is
that in my past experience with this, I just think they want to see what it is that we're changing so they can, whether they approve it or not, and
Okay.
then we understand what those changes are.
Wouldn't it be more efficient, just time-wise and such, that we all get our ducks in a row first and then send it to legal, and if they come back, you know, as opposed to sending it to them now, they come back with changes, then we all get together and we make more changes only to have it sent back there. So, I mean, it just seems to me that it'd be best to all of us get on the same plate and then send it to them. And then when it comes back with whatever changes, you know, we could just do one, you know, as you said, probably we're going to have to abide by what they say, and that's okay. But I'm just afraid the document is not ready for prime time right now if we have to discuss it. So my suggestion is maybe we could all get our copy where it stands now before the next meeting. We all read it. We come in with what we think should change or not. And at the end of that meeting, then package it up and say, here, Leo, this is what we came up with.
I agree, because the major changes we had were previous NAC, and we really made many changes at that time. And at this time, we have very few changes, maybe 6, maybe.
A few more than that, but they're pretty minor.
They're pretty minor changes. I agree. I think we should all look it over and understand what it is. It's not that difficult, really.
No, I mean, I read it, and
Yeah.
it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and Elise has put it in the column of what it was and what the change is, and so that she made it so easy. And we can discuss it at the next meeting. I agree with that as well.
I don't want it to be that we've reviewed it and then we voted that, okay, let me put it this way. What are we voting on? Are we voting that we have reviewed it, this is what we like, and we're voting to say, yes, we're getting ready to send it over to legal?
Yes.
That's all you're voting on?
Yes.
Not that you're saying that, because I wouldn't want to say that you agree to, want them to say, okay, this is the way it stands. That's what I was confused about.
Yeah, no, we're not taking a vote that this is it, because
So
Legal's gonna look at
so
it.
what you're saying is we're gonna review it, we're gonna look at it, we're gonna say, okay, we like what we've come up with.
Right, or we don't, can we make these changes?
And then we'll say, okay, well, everything's done, we don't need to review this anymore. And then we'll go and just say, well, okay, yeah, we're ready to vote to say it's going to legal.
Right.
Okay. So you have to make things plainer to me, you know? I'm tired. Oh, right, so yeah. So, yeah, okay. So, I mean, that's fine. Make sure that, I get a lot of emails. I mean, I'm just being honest. I just get so worn out with emails. And I hope that I can get it, and I hope that everybody, when you get the email about the changes, that you really look over it and really say, this is what or if you have any questions about it, that you say, well, let's talk about it and discuss it. And I think that next month, we probably won't have that much on the agenda, so that could just be a prime thing that you can discuss. Because I will not be here, and I will not be here because I'll be presenting at reparations on that Monday. So that's the only reason I won't be here. But I will still look it over and give my input of what I think. So I've got clarity. See, somebody else is sitting out there that's listening, they may not have clarity, so we've given them that. So now.
Just one more thought that I think it's not that Elise is planning to do this, but that I know it comes in as a Google Doc that you can edit and stuff. I would suggest not to do that,
Right.
because you're gonna have all these
Yeah,
things, and that,
comments.
you're gonna jump off a roof after a while, so.
Yeah, I can set it up to either allow just suggestions without editing, where people can leave comments and stuff, but I can also just do it as like a PDF or something and just call it a
That's
day.
what I would suggest, and then bring that to the meeting.
Yeah, hopefully they will all be attached to the meeting agenda. That would be great.
Sure, if you all are going to vote on something, then you can have the documents that you're going to vote on attached to the agenda, and that way there's transparency for the public to
Right.
follow the decisions that you're making. And it's sounding like you want to make a decision at the next meeting to move forward something,
To legal.
right,
Yes.
to legal,
Okay.
and then those documents will be posted. Your conversation will also be recorded if you want to, before you vote, make some other fine tuning suggestions. I would agree with Peter that it's probably in your best interest to not open up to suggesting in that document if it's going to be sent to the entire committee, because that could be viewed as deliberating. So if it's just kind of a PDF, here's what we have, it's out there for everybody to see, you all can think about it and then have a great discussion for everybody to view and reflect back on next month.
Because Peter and I were sitting here talking about, since we're from the older, not old, but older, that, we so used to all this technology. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
The technology part, that it does become, if you're putting it in a file and you're sending it to me and I can edit it or whatever, I'm thinking like, just send it to me, I'll put it, I'll look at it and then I'll make notes on whatever I think the changes should be instead of somebody else. You don't need a sidebar, don't do it, because I've been in the sidebar stuff too. And that becomes too complex. So for just this group here, if you send it out, you look at it, make notes on it, and when we come back, then you all will know what it is that you want to discuss about why it's a change. You might want to know why it's changed. What was, will you make a variable of how it was before you made the changes? Because new people may not know that. So they want to see what the bylaws looked like before. This is just this group here, what it was before and what you've changed. And they might want to know why you changed it. See, so that was that, and you have to open up that door for people to have that conversation. So they won't feel like, well, you've done something that I'm left out. That's me. So that's just me, because I'm going to ask questions, okay?
So did I hear you right saying that the bylaws say that we have to have it at least 7 days before we vote on anything or discuss it? Does that mean that's available to the public as well, 7 days before the meeting, in case there's public input about that?
I don't think so. I don't think that was the public.
You got the
I
hard
don't think
copy
so.
right there, what's it say?
Isn't it 48 hours that the agenda's posted before the meeting?
Yeah,
Just
it'll
like
be
city
posted with
council,
the
so there
agenda,
would be
but-
some
yeah.
days
Okay.
ahead, but you all can certainly get them.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like the intention of the bylaws were that you would
Right.
have that extended amount of
Yeah.
time to review.
Yeah,
Great, thank you.
so you good.
And I'm not old, I'm mature.
We're older, mature people.
We're mature.
Older, mature.
Ageism. But coming from,
It's okay, thank you. Anything else? Are we done? We're done. Okay. Thank you. So we're going to the Festival of Neighborhoods Working Group.
I have an update on that. We met on Tuesday the 21st of March. We had a meeting with the committee, and we come up with a couple of words that we feel like will represent our festival: fun, information, and connection. It's a one-stop event for people to be able to receive lots of information from our county as well as our city governments, dealing with our fire departments, sanitation, Homeward Bound, the fire trucks, library bus, lots of different elements within our city that people could benefit from. We sent to the Nawa and Christina a list of 15 different needs that we had. And of those needs, they range from bathrooms to platforms to tents, microphones, electricity bouncy house, tables and chairs, workshop space, play area for children, name tags. We felt like that would be really important for everybody to have their name tag and in the area in which they represent. Possibly a scavenger hunt, a logistics of the setup and parking, and on the line, bus line. So we have many different aspects of this festival, including food and the food trucks. And so we've been submitted all of these to the committee and from our discussion. And then Dawa, you need to take it from there, because we went from there to you.
All right, and then I will have, I know that there's been some work happening on a number of fronts, and I'll be very happy to turn this over to Christina. And I thought it might be helpful just to reflect back to what got us to that meeting, where we were able to really pause after hearing what the opportunities are from NAC to have some type of event where we're bringing people together that's fun, that's informational, and connecting people. As a staff member, knowing that our departments have some of the same goals for connecting with community as well, in both their primary service delivery and things which you all have already seen and identified as a priority, being our emergency operations plan that the fire department is currently undertaking. So knowing that those, from the staff side, that those things were existing with a similar goal, and that NAC had this goal, the Neighborhood Advisory Committee had this goal of a similar event. The third leg on that was understanding that engagement fatigue is a real thing, and it's not just Asheville that's experiencing this, as cities across the country are becoming more and more adept at engaging with their public. They're realizing that asking somebody to come out every weekend for a different project is really going to have a dwindling effect after a period of time. So that's the third leg, this opportunity of we can do possibly a lot of different engagements around projects if we can just have an amazing big event where lots of people are coming. So that's what we explored. It was a great conversation with the committee. We have talked with some departments, and I'm continuing those conversations about kind of uniting some of the things that we want to do on an annual basis, whether that's storm preparedness or flood prevention, Parks and Rec kind of fun, budget engagement for the coming year. That's actually right around the time where we're starting the whole budget process again. So there are a lot of opportunities. Those conversations are continuing. That's kind of the higher level conceptual angle on what a neighborhood festival could look like. I'll turn it over to Christina, because she's gotten into the details a little bit further and has some great information to share.
Thank you, Dawa. So I met with John Philman on Friday. He's our community events manager here, and asked him about dates. So I had that great list that Wendy compiled for us, and was able just to send that to him and say, this is what we need in a space. And we talked also at that meeting with the working group about the month of September being National Neighbor Month, and so we don't need to pin ourselves down too hard to any one date in September. So what I asked John for was, can I just know what venues are available on every Saturday in September to give us some options? So he also put me in touch with Wayne Simmons in Parks and Rec, and he's our program and operations manager that has the schedule for MLK Park. So we did ask about MLK Park. It's available every Saturday in September if we wanted that as an option. I talked to John more specifically about Pack Square Park, because when I told him what you all were planning, he was like, why not have it right in the middle of everything? That could be really fun. And there are 2 Saturdays in September, September 2nd, which is Labor Day weekend. That would be in conjunction, if you chose that date, with the Tunnels to Towers 5K. They start early. So basically, they would be setting off on that 5K from the municipal building while we were setting up. And also Goombay, which is returning to the block and Eagle Street this year. And he's going to receive, he said that he is, he's awaiting confirmation, but they're, like pretty much through that process, like 90-something% sure that that's going to happen. So that could be a really cool opportunity, in my opinion. And in John's opinion, he was really excited about it too. And the other day in September is the 16th. Nothing is happening at the park that day because Parks and Rec reserves one weekend a month, or one Saturday in the month, I can't remember which, as a Splashville Day, because they've heard from the community that like you've always got stuff going on and then we can't go enjoy Splashville while it's still hot. So long as you agreed to keep Splashville on, you could use the park that day, which Splashville is kind of a cool attraction anyway, so you might want to have it on regardless, even if you did the 2nd. So those are the dates that are available and the venues. And then I have more details about our internal resources that we can help provide, support with chairs and tents and, the lectern and microphone. He said that Parks and Rec might have an existing fee schedule for the bounce houses, so we wouldn't have to go around calling, places. They would already have that, probably have that information for you. And he told me who to contact in sanitation about, a litter collection at the end of the event. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to share. You look happy, so I'm gonna stop.
So we need to decide on the date that we would like to target. And from that, we can start putting together our whole entire project. So is there a possibility that we can have a discussion on these 2 dates of September 2nd or September 16th?
What does,
Get to the mic, Sharon.
oh, sorry. September 2nd, unfortunately, I've not been to Goombay because I've been out of town every time it's happened. Is the park used a lot at that time?
They're going back on the block. Is that what?
Is that what's happening? They're going back on the block?
They're going back on the block, so they're going
Yeah.
back down to originally where Goombay was. So they won't be up at that area.
How are they going to get everybody fit down there?
We've done it before.
They did,
yeah.
they've done it before, I've been,
Yeah, lots of times. It's
Well, that sounds to me, perfect, if, as long as we weren't competing with them in that area.
I don't think it would be a competition between the areas. I think they would find this as a benefit because it will drive more cultural diversity into the Goombay opportunity. And I think it would be a wonderful way to combine all of our neighborhoods.
Yeah, especially if we had the room for tables and everything that we want to do, the fire trucks, and combine everything
Oh,
together. I'm for the September 2nd date. I just
may
think
be
it makes
helpful
sense.
to just ask before you all make a final decision to make sure that everybody feels like it's a good match. Just from a general engagement perspective, that would be, I know I'm kind of maybe stepping out of my lane right now, but that might be something to think about.
And who would we contact through John.
The event organizer, which I'm sure John has contact information for.
Okay.
I appreciate your saying that, Dawa. That's what I was thinking, is making sure that all parties involved think it would be a benefit and not a detraction.
Yeah, I had some similar concerns about if that would be like a competition with the Goombay Festival that's going on. And certainly, if they're bringing food trucks and that kind of thing, I would hate for us to bring in a bunch of other food trucks, and then we have a bunch of food trucks that are all competing for, a piece of the pie or
I
whatever.
think we can work together, and that would be part of that connection that we need to work with them and find out how can we help you and how can you help us? And it would be more of a combined effort.
Yeah, I feel like if it's on the September 2 date, it definitely has to be more of a collaboration thing
Yes.
instead of like us building something. And
I think that that's how we looked at it at the very beginning, is a collaborative effort.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Do you have a question?
I'm fine.
Bobette, did you have any thoughts about the location or the Goombay?
I think you probably need to find out where would you put the food trucks? If you do it up on the, where would they circle around the food trucks?
Typically, when they have events like that, they go in the circle that, they block off the portion of the circle that surrounds, like where the fountain and the base of the former Vance Monument is. That's where I've seen
So
them
you're gonna
stage
come all the way
food trucks
down?
before.
You come all the way down? I think that's a good, I think it's a good idea because of the people that came from Raleigh to talk about how to blend in and make the connection with Peck and the block and how the trail would go to make that, so I think that that's a good idea. And a lot of people come home during that time. And Goombay would be an asset to us.
Big time.
And it would not be a competition with the food trucks, because most of the food that they have is gonna be,
Caribbean.
well, I mean, I've had some good food that wasn't Caribbean coming out, but they do have the goat and the curry and all of that stuff too, but they have a lot of different, so it'd be good for, just a
And
diversity.
it might be that we don't even need food trucks because they've got enough to take care of it.
We have one or two, or at the most. I can't see us needing as many
Right.
now with Goombay, which would be even better for us.
I can even envision, where they have music for Goombay and then a stage that they're alternating, like this one's at 2 and then this one's at 4, so that they're not in competition, but that we're like, signage that says this way to Goombay, this way to some neighborhood booths, but that it's going both ways so that.
What would be wonderful is if there was a tour of East End, so people could walk that neighborhood. And especially all that area where the Goombay is, and talk about the buildings and what was there and what has been demolished.
Do not volunteer me, because I will be having fun.
I think the weekend before is the Eastern Valley Heritage Festival that I'm involved in. I didn't bring that folder, so.
We're thinking of the 16th, that's also Rosh Hashanah, so I would hate for that to be a conflict for the Jewish community, but that would be a reason for us to consider more of September 2nd.
I think it would give more community on the 2nd. I think that would be more, that's just my thought. So y'all can take that back and start working.
All right.
And so now I know that we're on new business, and I know you've been sitting here listening to all of us with all of this and the proposed ban on single-use plastics. And I need to get your report. I need to know what you're talking about, because I got a whole lot of bags at my house that I want to start using instead of plastic. So we're here, and your name is Kira, pronounce the last name.
Yes, Kira Bulan.
Bulan, okay.
As you're setting that up, I just want to say thank you to Dawa and Christina for taking what we talked about in that work group and running with it. And
You've done, from where you started last time? from the last report to this report. You all have done some great work.
Thank you.
You have. All right, we're ready.
Bring this down to Shorty here. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Kira Boulan. I'm the Sustainability Program Manager here at the city, and I'm excited to be able to be with you today, some of you in real life. We had some Zoom time recently, and many of you I've never met before. I'm going to take a few minutes today to just talk a little bit, give a little bit of background and context to all this plastic talk that's been going around, and then provide you with an ask and some information, hopefully some tools to help us do good work to find out what people are thinking about plastic. So this is the graphics. You may have started seeing them around. We have some purchased advertising. We're in some of the buses. We're sending out emails. We're shooting it out as many places as we can because we really are invested in hearing from people. Right now, we do not have an opinion that is formed. We're in the engagement phase. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about where we came from, some of the history and background on this, and then just wanted to start with the baseline, knowing that we are not recommending something at this point. We're really just listening to people and trying to form that recommendation based on residents and business owners here in the community. A lot of words. I'm going to summarize this for you a little bit, but just to give you a little context that this conversation has been going on here in Asheville for a long time. You know, at the city, we have enacted waste reduction goals over time. We've been doing voluntary paper bag promotion for leaf bag collection for many years, since 2018. We've had intermittent opportunities to hand out paper leaf bags, and obviously been committed to reducing our waste, reducing our carbon footprint, reducing the opportunities that we have, trying to lessen our footprint, both as an organization and also to support residents in doing that in their homes. So we're building on a real foundation of opportunities, regardless of what direction our recommendation takes in the fall. But this year, or last year, I should say, we were at the Sustainability Advisory Committee, a group of organizations that came together as Plastic Free WNC, or Western North Carolina, came together with a proposed ordinance to actually regulate single-use plastic bags and styrofoam takeout food containers. So there's a lot. I'm going to go a little bit more into the detail of what we're looking at, what we're thinking about right now, but that's kind of the baseline. Is the Sustainability Advisory Committee entertained this proposal. They had some discussion, some consideration. They recommended that to go forward to City Council to consider what actions we can take to reduce single-use plastics in our community. So coming to council in the fall, they recommended that we take a two-phase approach. So again, phases of this have been under consideration for some time, and the first action that was a little easier to move forward and building on the backs of some work that's been done is to revise city code to prohibit plastic bags from leaf bag collection. So that came to council in January and was approved in council unanimously at that time, meaning that people, as of August 1st, 2023, will no longer be allowed to use plastic bags for curbside leaf collection. And that we feel really good about that. It was pretty non-controversial. Obviously, we're taking our time to continue to give people the resources they need to be in compliance with that, but we understand it's operationally, it's really efficient for our crews, and it's just a great way for us to not be ripping open plastic bags and leaving them to flow into our storm drains on the street. So we're excited about helping people kind of move through that transition. Phase 2 is a little bit more of a sticky wicket, and we are taking time to do really intentional engagement around what can we do, what should we do, what are the opinions of our community around single-use plastic bags at the point of sale. So that means the bag that you get at checkout at the grocery store, at retail operations, at takeout, restaurant, the bag that you get at checkout. Not necessarily the bag that's holding all your apples together, not necessarily the bag that your bread is coming in, definitely not like your ketchup packets and other complicated items. We're looking at point of sale, single-use plastic bags. We even know single-use can be confusing because many of us use our plastic bags multiple times, but we're talking about the plastic bags that you get on the way out the door. And disposable styrofoam, which is a registered trademark, so expanded polystyrene, you'll see in some of our materials, takeout containers. So that's like cups, and then the kind of styrofoam clamshell containers. Those are the two items under consideration. So we started with internal engagement, talking to our colleagues here and staff, what would possible unintended consequences be to our operations? How do we understand what what an ordinance might entail from the operational side? And then also, we're a large employer, we're also a big organization in town. Where are we using plastic bags? To just sort of start to understand as a business, what would some of our business community's experiences be? So we kind of did that beta testing internally. This is a little bit more of our timeline. You can see we're at the blue arrow there. We did some little mini focus groups. We did an internal survey. We did some research internally. And then we used that information that we gathered to start to build our public survey, which just went live 1 week ago. We had some review from some colleagues here in the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, thank you, and some of our other committees. We had some business engagement groups, people review the survey, and we collected all that internal information to launch a public survey. We know that surveys are a lot, and we ask of a lot of surveys from a lot of people, so this is not like a one-stop shop. We do have a survey, we're putting it out, we've heard from 4,000 people so far. We have high expectations on how that will continue to grow until the survey closes on April 30th. But we also know, sorry, I have like a frog in the back of my throat. We also know that that's not the end all be all. We also know that at the end of the survey, we won't have heard from all the people, from all the pockets that we want to. And so we're going to use this phase of engagement to help us think about where do we need to go for one-on-one conversations, who are we not hearing from, which are our next focus groups, even though even focus groups sound a little bit off-putting. So, just having those smaller targeted conversations to make sure we're getting as many voices as we can in the conversation before we, in October 2023, form a recommendation from staff for council consideration. This is a reiteration of some of the things I've already said. We've also been doing some feasibility and on alternatives. We're trying to really take in the whole landscape. What if we didn't recommend an ordinance for consideration? What would it look like internally? So we're trying to think about some of the research, some of the unintended consequences environmentally, operationally, and then to really be able to paint a whole landscape picture of activities and options. I already said most of this stuff. The survey is currently live, and it will be live through April 30th. We do have, I just brought a sample today, because I don't know how many of you have already filled out your survey. If you have completed your survey, you can report that information to me or Christina, and we will get you one of these reusable bags. They are also available to the public, who I know is listening attentively at home. We have them currently at the Grant Center and at the Burton Street Center, and then we'll have them at Stevens Lee and other community centers as staff and time allows. We're really asking for people to actually complete the survey in order to get this sweet gift. So there's a couple hoops we're putting up for people to jump through, but that's because we want to hear from you. And finally, these are some of our next steps. I mentioned the leaf bag. That's happening on August 1st. So in collaboration with our sanitation department, we're hitting the streets and talking to people about that, handing out paper bags. Also, there's a QR code on the presentation that I know will be linked online, and that goes directly to the information about which of our recreational centers have those leaf bags available for pickup. It's at 5 centers that I'm not remembering off the top of my head right now. It's, I think, at Grant, Montford, Stevens Lee, Shiloh, Tempe, Avery. Yeah, East End, that's right. Yeah, so I think those are the 5, but double check my math. They're available, and you can just check in with the staff. They're in little bundles of 5. Just a starter pack, kind of take the edge off the scariness of transitioning to paper bags for your leaves. And then again, in the fall, we'll be coming with our recommendations. So to you all here at the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, and with all of the folks that you're talking to, groups that you belong to, at your places of worship, and your other organizations that you're a part of, opportunities that you have to connect people with the survey, please do. We've got QR codes, we've got posters, there's lots of information online. I'm happy to share those resources with you directly. You can connect with me, you can connect with Christina, she's got all that information. And if you can help people understand the context of the survey, ask people to complete the survey, and or report back to us when you're knowing that there are groups of people that are just not being reached with this, so that we can be creative together about how we can hear from more folks. particularly, and I'm not sure that I really said enough about this, so I'll reiterate, particularly our small business owners. We know that it's a complicated subject for our small business owners, and we want to understand what opportunities are for them, how they're feeling about it, what options are, what solutions are currently in place. We know that we have a lot of creative business owners in town, so what are people doing to reduce single-use plastics, and what are options that people have that we can learn from in those communities? I think that here's our poster. You've probably seen around town, and I will pause for any questions if you have them.
Can I just say a thought?
Yeah.
I moved here from 2.5 years ago from Maryland and Montgomery County, who had banned single-use papers. And a few days ago, the city of Baltimore and Howard County next to it have banned single-use bags at the grocer or whatever. And that takes effect in November. I was kind of surprised, given Asheville's sort of progressive reputation, that wasn't the case here. And all I can say is that when we transitioned in Montgomery County over to it, most people saw no difference in their life. It was actually marketed as bring your own bag, bill, or whatever. But what it did was just obliterate thousands and thousands, and now in Baltimore, huge quantities of plastic. And this is just a thought, I'm not proposing anything, I'm not, and it's maybe the way the city works. But usually when people move to a place that already has a law, like for example, I, like everybody else in Asheville, I have a recycling bin and I have a garbage bin, and it's picked up on Wednesdays. So I comply. Thank you. It's there, it's in place. Why is it that, given all of what we're hearing, lesson from the United Nations about global warming, and everybody can see it around. I know our congressman, he just says it's a bunch of hysterical people about global warming, but you know what? This is Asheville, and I think I would, and getting feedback is fine, but think of the law. People will survive, and businesses will survive, and it's just a question of adapting, because it's very frustrating for me to get those polystyrene boxes, and I don't know what to do with them, because they're not recyclable. All those, I try not to get plastic, but yeah, just like Bob, I have a bunch sitting in the closet in a box. So I'm just wondering why we can't just
do it.
Hey, this is the rules now. You don't like it, love it or leave it. No, I'm just kidding. But really, it's like having a fire over there and trying to get public input about, well, should that be engine 1 company or should that be engine 3 company anytime the building burns down? So it's just my thought, that's all.
As a sustainability professional, I can certainly appreciate your opinion on the fire burning down analogy. Yeah, and this is why we're looking for everyone's opinion. 1,000%. It's a complicated regulatory environment here in North Carolina, so it's important for us to really understand the whole picture and make a really informed decision to council. But I encourage you to fill out the survey and tell us all of those things.
I will. Good luck.
Thank you.
Kira, I just want to say, I filled out the survey as soon as I got it last week and I forwarded it to lots of people. And what I really appreciate about the survey is asking not just how much this would affect you, but what are some ideas to get this information out there, to have substitute, should we provide bags? Should we do this? Lots of room for creative ideas to help people with this transition. And so I appreciate that tack on it. And I have a question. I'm wondering, in terms of trying to get as much input as possible, was there any thought given to maybe putting the survey in a card, like in anybody that has the water and the sewer bill and the paying for these services? So just putting it out there. I mean, I can forward it to as many people as I want to, but for everybody to have a notice that it's a city resident and pays for the services.
That's a good suggestion, yeah, and definitely we're trying to understand what all of the voluntary and non-voluntary options are, so people's creative ideas in the event that we don't recommend an actual ordinance, in the event that the recommendation is informed in a different direction, there's still a lot we can do as a community to reduce single-use plastics. And so the creativity of those ideas, regardless of what direction not only our recommendation, but the actions of council take, we know that we can make changes, whether they're voluntary or ordinance-based or somewhere in between. And so people's creativity has really informed that, even at the staff engagement level, which we have entertained. And we've been leaning on our departments, our partner departments, to be able to get their word out through their channels, mostly digitally at this point. But I think once we kind of learn a little bit more about who we're not talking to, then we might tap into some of those actual mailing lists and other opportunities. That's a good suggestion.
Well, they would just have a paper form they could fill it,
Yeah.
send in with their bill.
Right.
Which brings me to a logistic question. I manage a shopping center, and I want to hand this out to all the businesses I have at that shopping center. How do I get that information to them? Send a QR code. Now, you're looking at someone that's never done a QR code. So, now there's old. I'm older than you too, so.
I can teach you how to use the QR code, and I can give you a flyer that we have a short code to the website, so I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's pretty straightforward. It doesn't have like a long string of
Because I
consonants
got
and
the,
vowels.
I got the survey, and I haven't done it yet, and I've saved it, so I will do it. Because as Peter, I came from a city where they just did it. And one day I walked in, and there was no bags, and I had my groceries. And for 5 cents, I could buy a cloth bag. And so, because I said, well, where are the bags? Because I wasn't paying attention, and it just happened when I wasn't paying attention. And it just stopped, and plastic bags just stopped. It was great. And so I go to the store, I brought it with me, I've been here 15 years, and I bring my bags with me because I'm used to not having plastic bags, but I too have a closet full of plastic bags.
Yes.
Since I've been here, which I hadn't had in years. So why we just can't just say no, and mean it, it's beyond me, but I've been here long enough to know better than to ask that question. So the question I have is, how do I get it to my businesses where I can hand it to them and hand it to the owners and their women, small businesses, and say, here, please do this, and they will do it.
That's awesome. I can either print you actual full-size posters, or we have little palm cards that have a little information with the QR code and the website on them. I can print them and bring them to you. I can come around. We're really trying to get out on the street and up our ground game. So I'm happy to connect with you after the meeting and provide those. Yep. I can send you the poster file, and you can make it a little one.
And I can print it up, and I can cut it, and I can, because there's only 22.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm
So
happy to
it's a
do
small
that.
center.
Maybe you can help me connect with Sharon, Christina. Thank you. Yeah.
One of the things we had discussed during the engagement process was that there was actually another county in North Carolina that had banned plastic bags for a period of time, and then it was actually repealed. So I think in order for this to be successful, it has to be very calculated.
Kira, I'd like to have some of the cards, and I can pass them through my neighborhood and put them in their doors so that they remember to fill out the questionnaire. So if you would give me some of those, that would be great.
Yep, absolutely. And for anybody that's listening at home, if you have an audience and you want to connect with us, we're happy to provide those printed materials, electronic materials, incentive bags, as long as you're able to verify people are really filling out those surveys. We can get you any of those materials. My contact information is on the sustainability webpage, so folks are welcome to reach out to me directly, or if you're not able to find that, to reach out through Christina, and she can connect us.
Is that
I
where the
would
survey
like-
is, the sustainability page?
Yes, if you Google single-use plastic Asheville, it will bring you directly to the single-use plastic reduction project page, and from there you can get some context, like similar to the presentation today, and also link through directly to the survey.
The other thing I wanted to mention is when we finally do this and it completes, I'd like for the Chamber of Commerce to put it on their website so that when people are visiting us and they want to go shopping, they need to bring their bags. So
The Chamber has been a great partner with us so far in helping us to reach out to the business community. They did an initial review of the business portion of the survey, and so I agree. I think they'll be a great partner continuing down the road of various plastic reduction initiatives. No other questions? Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Kira. We appreciate it. That was some good information.
Thanks.
it's exciting.
Okay. Next, member information sharing, projection on other boards, multimodal transportation, Elizabeth?
I'm going to defer to Elise. I was not able to attend. I was ill, but she has
Okay.
a report.
I'm trying to find,
She is finding.
I pulled it up and then it went away. Units. Okay, I attended the Multimodal Transportation Commission last week on Wednesday. They covered a number of topics. The first thing that they were considering was a proposal by the North Carolina Department of Transportation for intersection improvement at Sand Hill and Sardis Road. If you know where that is, you're coming on Sardis from Brevard Road, there's the pizza place, and then there's the BP on the corner that has that crazy corner. And so the idea here is that this is considered a low-cost improvement project that only needs minimal approval. And so they were coming to us to ask us about our thoughts on that. And while the group all did agree that this is a difficult intersection that's unsafe from a lot of different perspectives, as a pedestrian, as a cyclist, as a motorist, but that the group needed more information because what we were given was basically like a napkin sketch. And the rest of the people on the committee did not find that to be acceptable. They wanted measurements and details and stuff. So we are going to get some more of that and discuss further at the follow-up meeting. They were also discussing a city-county joint transit planning project in which both the city and the county are planning to, in equal amounts, contribute funds to hire a consultant for the development of a master plan. And that will help direct the projects taken on by the transit department, as well as helping to identify more funding sources and things like that. And the other thing that they are considering right now is combining their Greenway and the Greenway Committee and the Bicycle Pedestrian Task Force into a single working group, potentially called the Active Transportation Committee, since a lot of the same topics were coming up in those subcommittee groups. There is there's a proposal from a bike share study, proposal in changing the city ordinance involving e-scooters. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, there was like a week where those Bird or the Lime scooters just got dropped in Asheville. And if you're not familiar, it's like a electronic scooter sharing thing. So think of like city bikes, but with e-scooters that don't have a docking station. They just end up all over the sidewalk and stuff. And so as a really quick stop to that, the city council had put in an ordinance that banned electric scooters. And they are proposing a change to that to allow personal, private electronic scooters. So one that you would own yourself, like a bicycle or a skateboard or something, but not those companies. And the members of the group were supportive of that measure because it is just another type of non-car form of transportation. That's the most of it. They have a long meeting with a lot of stuff that goes on, but that's the bullet points.
Sounds good. Sharon, Urban Forestry Commission?
We had a lot going on, but the most, I think the most important for here is that we've got a new urban forester, and we're determining the rules of engagement with the urban forester. It's a gentleman, I'm sorry, I don't have his name, I completely forgot to write it down. And he came from the Parks Department, so he came internally. And we're trying to figure out, working with the city, what his actual job description will be. And so we have a meeting tomorrow, so I'll have more information on what we're doing with Urban Forester, with the Urban Forester and the Urban Forestry Commission the next meeting. And then we had a discussion on the trees at Muni Course. And some basic, we had a lot of what's called alternative compliance. It took up a fair amount of time, so I'll have more information at the next meeting.
Can I ask a question about the golf course thing?
Mm-hmm.
To refresh my memory, wasn't there something about trees being removed that were not supposed to be removed? Or what? Just remind me what the details were.
Yes, but do we know this to be a fact? No, we don't know, because what Mark Foster, our arborist, city arborist, had told us is that people were coming out and removing the banding. Is generally done by ribbons on the trees that were to be removed, and there were people coming out and removing the trees, the banding. So supposedly that they wouldn't know to remove those trees, and yet they already knew that they needed to be removed. So it was a discussion of the bands were removed, but the trees were known to have to be removed. So we really can't clarify that at this point in time. I'm not sure if it's going to be on our agenda tomorrow or not. But there's been a lot of people going out on the course and removing the banding for the trees that are scheduled to be removed.
Okay, so there were bands removed from trees, so they're actually, I'm sorry, the way it sounded to me was that there were trees that were removed that shouldn't have been. What you're saying is that there are trees that were marked for removal that then the mark was removed, so they haven't.
But we
been
don't know
removed.
that for sure because there's so many trees on it, and that's in the purview of our Public Works Department. And so we're trying to work it out now. It's been very difficult to work out because we didn't know on the Urban Forestry Commission that there were bands that had been removed. And so, because we had just gotten information that trees were being removed that weren't marked to be removed, and then we found out, yes, they were marked to be removed, so.
Okay. Thank you for
it's in
clarifying that.
Yeah, it's in that ambiguity place. Thank you for laughing. I'll have more next month. And hopefully I sat back and nobody could hear that.
Bobette, I'd like to ask the Neighborhood Advisory Committee if they would be interested in helping the Candace Pickens Park to be built. It's October 4th through the 8th. This is a volunteer-built park, and it is going to be over at Jones Elementary School, where the Jones Park was. It had been torn down, and it's going to be rebuilt. And again, the name is Candace Pickens Park. They are needing a number of people to help, but I thought that this would be a wonderful opportunity for the Neighborhood Advisory Committee to come out in force and show our support and help them as they are working. That they've got public relations coordinators, social media, volunteer coordinators. They need childcare coordinators, food coordinators, tools, and art and special features. So they're looking at a whole bunch of different things for this new park that's going to be built. And the money has all been raised by individuals in that community. So it's an unbelievable process that we have been going through. And I would like to know or put to a suggestion that we as a committee of the Asheville City Neighborhood Advisory to come out together to help with the building of the new park.
What were those dates again?
The dates are October 4th through the 8th. I just think it would be a wonderful opportunity, not only for us, but for the city as a whole, from all the committees, to come out and show that we are supporting this process. It was a $300,000 that the neighborhood raised to help pay for the replacement of this park. So that's my, I'd like to submit that as a question and see if there's any room for discussion.
October's a long way off.
Yes,
But
a long way off,
Just left us to think
but
about
I
it.
wanted to bring it to everybody's attention.
yeah, that's good. I have no problem.
I can bring it back up again
Do that.
in July.
Do that. Do
Okay.
that. July and then August too.
Okay.
It's
Well,
a long way
we'll
off.
have a lot on our plates in July and August, but I'll be glad to bring it back up to everybody's attention in July and August.
Okay.
Thank you.
Agenda item for the next upcoming meeting. We're gonna wait until May to get the Human Relations Commission, see if we can get her to come in and talk to us about that. And then our next scheduled meeting will be Monday, April 24th, at 6:00 PM in person. Like I said, I will not be able to be here. Sharon will be chairing that meeting. If she comes in incorrect, just email me.
You'll be the first to know.
Yeah, if she acts up. So I want to give,
I also won't be able to attend because I'm traveling.
okay. All right, it's good to know in advance, I'm glad for that. So,
Would it be possible to invite a speaker, since we're not going to have one for, I guess, April? Could I invite David Rogers to come and talk about the playground that they're going to be building? Or do you want me to wait until July?
I'm sorry, Wendy, we do have someone lined up for April. It's not on
Oh,
your
okay.
agenda.
Oh, okay.
But Jeremy Knighton's going to come from the fire department.
Okay, how about July?
We don't have anything that far out.
Oh. Does anybody have any discussion on inviting David Rogers, who's coordinated this with the Candace Pickens Park, to come and talk about the park?
No objection.
so if, I don't know if everybody knows about why it's named Candace Pickens. Does everybody know? Candace Pickens was the young lady that was killed down in that area, and she was pregnant, and they shot her son. She survived. I know them, and I know the family, and it was, and her son laid there all night long because they didn't find him till the next morning, and he's doing well. I talked to his grandfather. He lives in Florida, so that's why it's important for them to do this. It does have some reasoning for the Candace Pickens Park, and it does mean something, and it's a staple for, just for maybe taking a bad situation and make it into a good situation for other people to be able to enjoy, because it was a very, I didn't think everybody knew that was why it was named the Candace, and you all, I applaud the fact that you all went through with all that you did to get it named that park.
Yeah.
It was like, it was
We
not
worked
like
hard
it
on
was,
that.
yeah, it was not like you just did something today and they said, okay, but they worked hard on it. So, we appreciate that. So as we get ready for October, you remember, that's a long way for me. I used to multitask, but that turned into every morning I woke up, I do today, I go to bed tonight, and then I think about something the next day. So I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna always remember, so just keep reminding us of that.
I just wanted to reach out to him so he could come and talk.
Yeah,
to
that would be
us.
good, and that would in July. That's kind of like work
All
with
right,
that and give
I'll
him
do
that
that
time.
for July or August.
Okay. And so before we go, we have Councilwoman Kim Roney, who is our liaison, who is here, and she's always very quiet. So if you have anything that you'd like to say, we've talked a lot tonight. I'm sorry.
I learned a lot today, thank you. I did find 4 things that are coming up on tomorrow night's council agenda that are very specific to neighborhoods, so I thought I would just put a little sunshine on those items. In the consent agenda, item B includes a resolution for paving a walking trail and the basketball court at Walton Street Park. This comes after a deep amount of community engagement and input from people of all ages in the neighborhood in the South Side, looking for new and family-friendly ways to use Walton Street Park. In item L, you will find a long list of speed limit reductions citywide, and you might find some interest for your neighborhoods there. So that's item L on the consent agenda. In the public hearing for item B, the public hearing is to consider the adoption of the South Slope Neighborhood Vision Plan. I know that East and Valley Street and Southside Rising and South Slope neighborhoods have been really engaged in this for a long time, and it's been delayed several times. So this is coming up to council for adoption. That's tomorrow, Tuesday at 5 p.m. And then last but not least, in new business, item A is the adoption of the Municipal Climate Action Plan. This is weaving in the Climate Justice Initiative, which includes vulnerability scores, looking at which neighborhoods are most vulnerable to things like stormwater issues, mudslides, food insecurity, infrastructure needs. So this is an opportunity for us to come together for a plan for intentional efforts towards neighborhood resiliency. So all these things can be found on the City Council agenda for Tuesday at 5 o'clock.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anything else? Are we ready to go? I like to do this. Meeting is adjourned.